Hello, everyone. Have you ever wondered what happens after we die? On my channel, I explore fascinating and thought provoking topics about life after death. I share stories, near death experiences, and various theories about what awaits us in the afterlife. Join me on this journey of exploration as I discuss the mysteries beyond our earthly existence and seek answers to life's biggest questions. Please subscribe to my channel and accompany me on this spiritual journey. I look forward to seeing you. The experience of Norma Edwards. In 1969, at the age of 26, something important happened to me. It was an ordinary Monday morning, and I had just returned to work after a period of sick leave. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, so I went about my daily routine. I prepared my child for kindergarten and went to work in London. During the day, I felt more discomfort, and after a few hours, the discomfort turned into significant pain. Around 4 in the afternoon, I realized that my pain was similar to labor pain and it came every 15 minutes. I asked to come home early from work. I went to the elevator. Elevators were very old in the 16th, and when the elevator came to a screeching halt, I winced in pain. There was another woman in the elevator, a Hindu woman, recognizable by her traditional dress and a mole on her forehead. When the elevator shook, he asked if I was okay. I replied that I was not well and then left. The elevator doors opened and he asked for help from the people in the lobby. Because the hospital was nearby, they put me in a taxi and the woman came with me to the hospital. When we go to the hospital, I was semi-conscious and insisted on walking on my own instead of using a stretcher. The taxi driver and my new friend helped me to the emergency room where I passed out again. The situation quickly turned critical as the doctors realized I had been carrying a dead baby for 3 months. No one, including my doctor, knew I was pregnant because my first labor had gone wrong and I was told I couldn't get pregnant again. The doctors took me to the operating room, and the last memory of my consciousness was a very intense pain. Suddenly, I found myself in a state of peace and tranquility without any pain. I felt like I was on the ceiling looking down at my body and the operating bed. My first thought was, how can I be in two places at the same time? My consciousness was much clearer than ever. I wanted to tell the doctors that I was no longer in pain and that they could stop the operation. But they could not hear me. I tried to communicate with the nurses, thinking that they might be more sensitive, but they couldn't hear me either. As I looked up, the device showing my heart rate showed a flat line. As I realized I was going through the ceiling and into a very dark tunnel. The darkness of the tunnel was so deep that words can't describe it. I was moving quickly through the tunnel until I saw a bright white light at the end. The brightness of the light was more intense than the sun, but I felt calm and comfortable in it. Merging into the light, I experienced an indescribable feeling of love and unity. There are no words to describe this feeling. It was the most exciting and relaxing experience possible. I realized that I myself have become love and light, and love are actual one. In this state, I was wondering how I could move in this environment, and immediately started moving until I arrived in front of what happened to be a large television screen. The screen showed three columns. On the left, my life was I had planned it before I was born. In the middle, the circumstances that happened during my life to help me realize those plans. On the right, unfortunately, most of them were marked as a goal not met. As the screen continued to show, I reviewed my life when I was 19 years old and we got married and came to England from South Africa. We came to England for a better and more prosperous life. I realized how much of my life I had spent chasing material success instead of realizing my true life goals. I thought to myself, how could I be so stupid? I also saw why attracted different people to me and how people in my life played a role in helping or challenging me, even those who seemed negative. I saw that one of these people who was especially challenging and unpleasant in my life was actually a dear and close soul from my past life who had given me a lot of life. But in this life, by challenging me, my growth helped. It was difficult to him to play this role, yet he accepted it to help me. I saw that prayer was an important part of my life, but realized that my understanding of it was incomplete. My religious upbringing only taught me to ask God for what I want, but I was not taught the importance of silence and meditation and listening to the inner voice. This life review showed me that true prayer involves praying and then being silent and meditating to hear God's answer. Finally, the screen stopped showing and I was left with a deep question. What did Christ mean when he said, I have come that you may have life and live it more fully? The screen started showing again, showing me my six past lives. I found myself in medieval times. When people used torches, I saw myself as a woman and saw what I meant to be a woman in those days when there was war between the tribes. In one of those wars, they decided to take the women and put them in a small boat and send them to the sea because if they lost the war, they were afraid that the women would be killed. And then there would be a way to continue the generation and produce new life. Well, let us say they put us in a small boat and sent us out to sea, and most of us drowned, including myself. In this life, also I have a strong interest in the ocean. I'm always afraid of it. I saw myself at the time when Moses was pulled out of reeds. I was one of the women present at the time. I experienced living in poverty, including hunger. When you review these experiences, you feel the hunger and the fear as if you were reliving them. I saw myself as a very poor child in the cotton fields, picking cotton alongside my mother. I could feel the sound of Master's horse's hooves and the sound of his whip. If someone couldn't harvest the specified amount of cotton, he was whipped. I was a child and I was afraid that when the master caught with me, I would be whipped because I couldn't work as well as the others. Then the scene changed to another life of mine. And guess what it was? This time I was a white man on a horse who cruelly whipped the backs of the workers in the cotton field. We have all lived different lives. There was no need to blame anyone. I reviewed the 7 lives and saw how they had affected the choices I had made to come to Earth during this time. As the browsing ended, I began to question how should negative this environment and what more there was to see. I reached the river with hundreds of souls on the other side. I knew that I had lived and interacted with these spirits in many previous lives and that we all had one thing in common: love. They radiated so much love that it turned into light and shone towards me. My aunt, the last person in my family to die, stepped into the water and beckoned me to come. We moved towards each other, but when we got close enough to hug, she stopped and said, "I'm so sorry, I had to turn you away." I protested and said that I didn't want to go back. She replied that she wanted to send me back with a message. There is more to life than meets the eye. With that message, I suddenly felt like I was falling and was hit hard on my body. Returning to the body was very shocking and unbearably painful. Moving from a place full of love and happiness to this world caused me to suffer severe depression for 3 years because I wanted to return to that place full of love and purity. I longed to return to that spiritual climate where all my questions were answered effortlessly. When I opened my eyes, all my senses were heightened. I could hear classical music playing softly on the radio. I saw notes that were rated to color and mathematical symbols, and I saw light and frequencies that were related and interacting. The nurses were not aware of the beautiful energy they were emitting. 2 male doctors came in and I could see the light they were emitting too. I wanted to speak, but I couldn't because of a tube in my throat. On the way home from the hospital, I noticed that I could see the energy and light being produced by the trees and the energy flow from the ground. My vision was enhanced, and light bulbs were exploding around me, and electronic equipment was malfunctioning. It took me a while to get used to these new experiences, which caused a profound change in the way I lived. Despite the 3 years of depression and not wanting to leave and wishing to return to that beautiful place, real teachers came into my life who finally helped me travel out of my body. I didn't talk to anyone about my experience for 15 years. At the time, there was no term for such phenomena, and I was fully aware that talking about it might lead others to believe that I was mentally challenged and might lead to my being committed to a mental hospital. It was only when my mother was dying that I felt the need to share my experience. I wanted to her to know that she is going to a beautiful place and that there is no need to be afraid. For the first time, I shared my experience with her.